The crash happened 3 days ago. Heiyun still remembered the screaming alarms, the smell of burning circuits, and the violent impact that threw her against the safety harness. Her small research ship had fallen from the sky like a broken bird, tore apart by the electromagnetic storms that raged across this alien world. Now she sat in a dark cave, trying to make her emergency supplies last as long as possible. The planet was called Draker 7, a world ruled by creatures that humans had only heard about in fearful whispers. Dragons, massive, intelligent beings that could cross space without ships and spoke directly into minds. Heiyun had come here to study the planet's strange quantum crystals, not to meet the terrifying rulers face to face. The cave protected her from the purple lightning that cracked across the red sky every few minutes. Outside, the wind howled like a dying animal. Inside, Heiyun huddled next to her small heating unit and tried not to think about how alone she was. Her distress beacon was broken. Her communication system was dead. Nobody knew she was here. Nobody was coming to save her. On the third day, she heard something that made her freeze. A sound, not the wind, not the crackling energy of the storms. Something else. Something that sounded almost like crying. Heiyun grabbed her flashlight and stood up slowly. Every survival instinct told her to stay hidden, stay quiet, stay safe. But the sound came again. Weak, desperate, the cry of something small and afraid. She followed the sound deeper into the cave system. The walls here glowed with the same quantum crystals she had come to study. They pulsed with soft blue light, making strange shadows dance across the stone. The crying grew louder. Heiyun's heart pounded in her chest. She knew she should turn back. She knew this was dangerous, but she couldn't stop her feet from moving forward. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber. There, trapped beneath fallen rocks and broken crystal formations, was something Heiyun had never expected to see. A baby dragon. It was small, barely the size of a human child, with scales that shimmered between purple and gold in the crystal light. The colors were wrong. Heiyun had seen images of dragon hatchlings in her research files. They were always red or black or dark green, never these strange, beautiful colors. The baby dragon looked at her with huge eyes that glowed like stars. It whimpered again, tried to move, but unable to free itself from the rocks. One of its small wings was bent at an odd angle. Blood, dark blue and glittering, seeped from cuts on its body. Heiyun knew what dragons were. They ruled this sector space. They had destroyed human colonies that got too close to their territory. They were dangerous, powerful, and according to every report she had ever read, they hated other species. Helping this creature could get her killed. The mother was probably searching for it right now. If she found Heiyun with her baby, there would be no mercy. But looking into those desperate eyes, Heiyun couldn't walk away. She had become a scientist because she wanted to understand life in all its forms. She had joined the Frontier Corps because she believed humanity could be better than their violent history. And right now, in this moment, none of the politics or fear mattered. There was a child trapped and hurting, and she had the ability to help. She set down her flashlight and approached slowly, speaking in a soft voice. The baby dragon watched her with confusion and fear. It had probably never seen a human before. Heiyun knelt beside the rocks and examined the situation carefully. The fallen stones were heavy, but she thought she could move them with the right leverage. She pulled out her emergency toolkit and got to work. It took 2 hours of careful effort. Heiyun used a metal bar from her broken ship as a lever, lifting each rock slowly to avoid causing more injuries. The baby dragon seemed to understand she was trying to help. It stopped struggling and waited, those strange eyes never leaving her face. Finally, the last rock shifted aside, and the little creature was free. Heiyun reached out carefully. The baby dragon flinched but didn't pull away. She ran her hands gently over its body, checking for serious injuries. The wing was sprained, not broken. The cuts were shallow, but the hatchling was weak, dehydrated, and cold. Without help, it would die here in this cave, making a decision that would change her life forever. Heiyun carefully lifted the baby dragon into her arms. It was heavier than it looked, and its scales felt warm despite the cold cave air. The The creature made a small chirping sound and pressed against her chest, seeking warmth and comfort. Heon felt something strange in that moment. A connection, a bond forming between two completely different species. She carried the baby back to her camp and wrapped it in her thermal blanket. From her medical supplies, she created a mixture of nutrients and water, using her knowledge of alien biology to make something the dragon could digest. The hatchling drank eagerly, its strength slowly returning. Heon stayed awake all night, monitoring its condition and keeping it warm. She named the baby Bora, after the purple color of its unusual scales. Over the next 2 days, Bora grew stronger. The little dragon followed Heon everywhere, making happy chirping sounds and occasionally releasing small sparks of energy that didn't hurt but tickled. They communicated without words. Bora would send feelings, impressions, simple emotions that Heon somehow understood. Trust, gratitude, safety. On the morning of the 3rd day after finding Bora, Heon decided they needed to leave the cave. Her supplies were almost gone, and Bora needed proper food. She fashioned a carrier from her backpack, and Bora climbed inside happily, her small head poking out to look around. Together, they walked out into the red wasteland under the purple storm clouds. That's when the sky went dark. Not from clouds, but from something massive blocking out the light. Heon looked up, and her blood turned to ice. A dragon, not a baby, a full-grown adult. No, not just an adult. This was something beyond huge. This creature was the size of a building, with scales that glittered like diamonds and eyes that burned with intelligence and power. Behind it, more dragons appeared, each one a living weapon of incredible might. The massive dragon landed in front of Heon with an impact that shook the ground. Dust and small rocks flew everywhere. Heon stumbled backward, but didn't run. There was nowhere to run to. She instinctively held Bora closer, protecting the baby even though she knew it was pointless. This dragon could destroy her with a thought. Bora chirped happily and squirmed in the carrier, reaching toward the massive creature with her small claws. The giant dragon's burning eyes locked onto Heon. The human felt a pressure in her mind, like someone tried to open a door. She had read about this. Dragon telepathy. The creature was about to speak directly into her thoughts. The voice that filled Heon's mind was feminine, powerful, and filled with emotions she couldn't fully understand. Rage, fear, relief, confusion. The dragon spoke, and her words echoed through Heon's entire being. You are a human. Humans fear us. Humans hate us. Humans hunt us when they can. Yet you hold my daughter in your arms, alive and healing. I have searched for her 3 days, believing her dead or stolen by enemies. Instead, I find her with one of the most unlikely creatures in the universe. The dragon lowered her massive head until it was level with Heon. One eye, the size of Heon's entire body, examined her carefully. The human could feel the heat radiating from the creature's scales. One breath from this dragon could turn her to ash. One claw could cut her in half. But Heon stood her ground, still holding Bora protectively. Then something unexpected happened. The dragon's voice changed. The rage and confusion faded, replaced by something softer, something that sounded almost like wonder. The dragon spoke again, her words barely a whisper in Heon's mind, but they carried the weight of something important, something that would echo through history. You saved her. When you had nothing to gain, when you risked everything, you saved her. Heon found her voice, though it shook with fear and adrenaline. She looked into that enormous eye and spoke the simple truth. She needed help. I couldn't just walk away. The giant dragon, who Heon would later learn was Empress Myri, ruler of the Northern Dominion, and one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, did something that shocked everyone watching. She bowed her head to the human, just slightly, just enough to show respect. And in that moment, everything changed. Heon stood frozen, as Empress Myri's massive form loomed over her. The other dragons circled overhead, their wings creating wind strong enough to knock a person down. But Myri raised one enormous claw, signaling them to stop. They obeyed instantly, landing in a circle around the human and their empress. The silence that followed was heavy with tension. Bora chirped happily, completely unaware of the danger. She reached her small claws toward her mother, wanting to be close. Myri's expression softened when she looked at her daughter. The fury in her eyes melted into pure relief and love. But when she looked back at Heian, the human saw something else. Confusion, wonder, and a question that needed answering. The Empress spoke again, her voice filling Heian's mind. "Tell me what happened. Tell me how my daughter came to be in your care. And tell me the truth, human. I will know if you lie." Heian took a deep breath and told her story. She explained the crash, the cave, finding Bora trapped under the rocks. She described the 2 days of nursing the baby back to health, sharing her limited supplies, keeping her warm. She held nothing back. When she finished, silence fell again. The dragons looked at each other, communicating in ways Heian couldn't understand. Finally, Myri spoke, and her words were so quiet they were almost gentle. In 10,000 years, across hundreds of worlds and thousands of encounters, never has another species shown kindness to our young. They fear us. They hate us. They hunt us when they think they can win. Some steal our eggs to sell them. Others kill our children to prove their bravery. But you, a human with no weapons and no hope of rescue, you saved her. You gave her your food and water when you had almost nothing left. Why? Heian looked down at Bora, who was now trying to climb out of the carrier to reach her mother. She answered honestly, because she needed help, because she was scared and hurt. It didn't matter that she was a dragon. She was a child in pain, and I had the ability to help. That's all that mattered. Something changed in Myri's eyes then, a decision made. She lowered her head closer and spoke in a way that felt more private, like a conversation between two people rather than an interrogation. My daughter is not ordinary. Heian of Earth. She was born during the cosmic convergence, when 3 stars align with our world. Look at her scales. Those colors have meaning. Heian looked closer at Bora's purple and gold scales. In the daylight, she could see patterns within the colors. Symbols, marks that seemed to shift and glow with their own light. They were beautiful and strange, like nothing she'd seen in any research file. Myri continued. These markings are mentioned in our oldest prophecies. They speak of the Marked One, born once in 1,000 years, who will bridge 2 species and end the age of isolation. When Bora was born, our people celebrated, but there are those who fear change. They fear what unity might mean for our way of life. The Empress looked toward the horizon, where storm clouds gathered. A faction called the Crowd took her 3 days ago. They oppose my peaceful policies. They believe dragons should rule alone, never trusting other species. They wanted to use Bora to claim power, saying they were protecting the prophecy from being corrupted. But something went wrong with their ship. They had to abandon her in those caves, planning to return later. Heian felt cold fear settle in her stomach. Are they still looking for her? Yes, and now they know she is alive. They will come with force. Myri paused, seeming to struggle with her next words. There is another problem. Bora has bonded with you. Bonded? Heian asked. Our young form connections with those who save them in their first weeks of life. It is a survival instinct, a quantum entanglement that links minds and hearts. Breaking such a bond suddenly can damage a hatchling's developing consciousness. It can cause pain, confusion, even madness in some cases. Myri's voice carried worry. Bora is connected to you now. Separating you immediately could hurt her. Heian felt Bora's small weight in her arms. The baby dragon had fallen asleep, trusting and peaceful. The idea of causing her pain was unbearable. What do you need me to do? Come with us to my palace. Stay with Bora until she is strong enough to separate safely. It may take weeks or even months. I know this is not what you planned. I know you have your own life, your own people. But I am asking you, as one mother to another, help me protect my daughter. Heian thought about her crashed ship, her failed mission, the fact that no rescue was coming anyway. She thought about the strange bond she felt with the small creature sleeping in her arms. The decision was easier than it should have been. I'll stay. I'll help however I can. Relief flooded Myri's expression. Then you have my gratitude and my protection. As of this moment, you are under the shield of the Northern Dominion. Any who harm you will answer to me personally. One of the other dragons landed closer. He was smaller than Myri, but still massive, with scarred scales and hard eyes. He spoke, and Heon heard his voice in her mind too, though it felt different from Myri's warm presence. Colder, more suspicious. Empress, this is dangerous. Bringing a human to the palace? Our people will not accept this, and the crowd will see it as a weakness. Then let them see it, Taeyong. Myri responded firmly. I am tired of ruling through fear and isolation. Perhaps this human and my daughter are exactly what our people need to see. Perhaps the prophecy begins now. Taeyong looked unconvinced, but bowed his head. As you command, Empress. But I urge caution. Myri turned back to Heon. We must leave now. The crowd have ships in orbit. They are watching. Can you fly? Not by myself, Heon said with a weak smile. Myri made a sound that might have been laughter. She lowered her body close to the ground. Then climb onto my back. Hold tight to the ridge scales. And do not worry. I have never dropped a passenger. Heon climbed carefully onto the Empress's back, still holding Bora. The scales were warm and surprisingly smooth. She found handholds among the ridge scales that ran down Myri's spine. Other dragons moved closer, forming a protective formation around their Empress. Ready? Myri asked. No, Heon admitted, but let's go anyway. The Empress laughed again, a sound like distant thunder. Then she launched into the sky. Heon's stomach dropped as the ground fell away beneath them. Wind screamed past her ears. The other dragons surrounded them, flying in perfect formation. They climbed higher and higher, until the wasteland below looked like a red painting. Then Heon saw it, the Crystal Palace. It floated in the sky, a massive structure carved from what looked like pure diamond and quantum crystal. Lightning storms swirled around it constantly, feeding it power. It was beautiful and terrifying, like everything else on this world. As they flew closer, Heon noticed ships in the distance, dark shapes against the purple clouds. Taeyong saw them too. His voice reached all of them through the mental link. Krau scouts. They are watching us. They know we have a hatchling. Let them watch, Myri said calmly. Let them see that I do not hide. We arrive as we are, with honor and openness. But as they approached the palace, another voice cut through the mental channel. Cold, angry, full of hate. Empress Myri, you have made a mistake. The human has corrupted the marked one. You have betrayed our people by allowing an outsider to touch her. This cannot stand. The dark ships moved closer, their weapons charging with visible energy. Taeyong and the other guards moved to intercept, but Myri held up a claw. Do not engage. Not yet. We will reach the palace first. They dove toward the floating fortress. The storm lightning crackled around them, close enough that Heon could feel the static electricity, making her hair stand up. Bora woke and made worried sounds. Heon held her tighter, whispering comfort even though she was terrified herself. They landed on a huge platform at the palace entrance. Dozens of dragons were waiting there, and Heon could feel their emotions even without telepathy. Shock, fear, anger, curiosity. She was probably the first human to ever stand in this place. Myri turned her massive head to look at Heon. Welcome to the Crystal Palace. From this moment, you are a guest of the Northern Dominion. You will have quarters, food, protection. Bora will stay with you. Doyen, my scholar, will teach you our ways and help you understand what is happening. A younger dragon stepped forward. He looked at Heon with bright, curious eyes. I have studied humans. This is fascinating. I have so many questions. Later, Doyen, Myri said gently. Then her voice became serious again, speaking to everyone present. Hear me now. This human, Heon of Earth, saved my daughter's life when she had no reason to help and every reason to fear. She is now under my direct protection. The crowd want war over this. So be it. But this human and my daughter will be safe. I swear this on my honor as Empress. The gathered dragons bowed, though Heon could see some did it reluctantly. As servants led her toward the palace interior, With Bora still clutched in her arms, Heon heard Taeyang's voice one more time, speaking privately to Myri. The Krau fleet is mobilizing. They will attack within days. Are you prepared for what this means? Myri's response was firm and final. I have been preparing for change my entire reign. Perhaps this is the moment everything transforms. Perhaps that is exactly what we need. Heon walked into the Crystal Palace, a human in a dragon's world, holding a baby that might be the key to changing everything. She had no weapons, no plan, no way home. But she had made a choice to help a child in need, and now that simple choice had put her at the center of something much bigger than herself. The prophecy was in motion, and there was no turning back now. The rooms they gave Heon were larger than her entire apartment back on Earth. Crystal walls glowed with soft light, and the furniture had been quickly modified for human size. Everything was beautiful but strange. The bed was too hard, the ceiling too high, and the constant hum of energy from the storm outside made it difficult to sleep. But Bora seemed comfortable, curling up next to Heon every night, her small body radiating warmth. Doyen came to visit every morning. The young dragon scholar was fascinated by humans and asked endless questions. What did Heon eat? How did humans communicate without telepathy? Why were they so small and soft? His curiosity was innocent and genuine, and Heon found herself enjoying their conversations. Through Doyen, she began to understand dragon culture. Dragons were not the mindless monsters humans feared. They were poets who wrote verses that could last for hours. They were scientists who had unlocked secrets of quantum physics that humans were still struggling to understand. They were philosophers who debated the meaning of existence for centuries. Violence was rare among them because they had evolved beyond physical conflict millions of years ago. They fought with ideas, with logic, with mental contests that required no bloodshed. Then why do humans fear you so much? Heon asked one day as they sat in a garden filled with floating crystal flowers. Doyen's expression became sad. Because of mistakes made long ago, when our species first met, there were misunderstandings. Dragons defended their territory too aggressively. Humans responded with weapons. A few battles happened, and both sides lost people they loved. After that, fear and hate grew stronger than curiosity or hope. We avoided each other, built walls, spread stories that made the other side seem like monsters. But you're not monsters, Heon said, watching Bora chase a floating flower with playful energy. And you are not the violent savages some of our people believe you to be, Doyen replied. You prove that by saving Bora. Many dragons are watching you. Heon, you might not see them, but they are curious. You are the first human most of them have ever met. What you do here matters. That afternoon, Empress Myri summoned Heon to the throne chamber. The room was enormous, with walls made entirely of crystal that showed images of space and distant stars. Dozens of dragons filled the chamber, including Taeyang and other important-looking officials. They all turned to watch as Heon entered, carrying Bora. Myri sat on a raised platform, looking every bit the powerful ruler. But when she saw her daughter, her expression softened. Heon, thank you for coming. We must discuss the situation with the crowd. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing ships gathered in orbit. There were many of them, more than Heon had expected. Myri continued speaking. The crowd have allied with human mercenaries, pirates and soldiers willing to fight for money. They plan to attack within 3 days. Their goal is to take Bora and eliminate anyone who stands with me. That includes you. Heon felt her throat go dry. Human mercenaries? Working with the crowd? Not all humans are like you, Taeyang said coldly. These ones see only profit. They care nothing for peace or understanding. They are exactly what we have learned to expect from your species. That's not fair, Heon said, anger rising in her chest. You can't judge all humans by the worst of us. That's the same prejudice that started this whole conflict. Taeyang's eyes flashed with annoyance, but Myri raised a claw for silence. Heon is correct. We cannot condemn an entire species based on the actions of some, just as humans should not fear all dragons because of past mistakes. She looked at Heon directly. However, the danger is real. These mercenaries are led by someone called Captain Jaiwan. Do you know this name? Heiyun's blood turned cold. Jaiwin. Yes, I know her. We went to the academy together. She was brilliant but ruthless. Always said that survival mattered more than morality. I haven't seen her in 5 years. Well, she is coming here now. With 40 warships supporting the Krau fleet. Myri's voice was grim. I wanted you to know what we face. You can leave if you wish. I can arrange transport to a neutral station. No one would blame you for choosing safety. Heiyun looked down at Bora, who was playing with the edge of her jacket. The baby dragon trusted her completely. Leaving would be the smart choice, the safe choice. But Heiyun had never been good at taking the easy path. I'm not leaving, she said firmly. Bora needs me, and maybe I can help somehow. I know how human mercenaries think. I might be useful. Taeyeon made a dismissive sound. What could one small human possibly do against a fleet? I don't know yet, Heiyun admitted, but I won't abandon her. I won't abandon any of you. Something shifted in the room. Some of the dragons looked at her with new respect. Even Taeyong seemed slightly less hostile. Myri nodded slowly. Then you will train. Taeyong will teach you our ways of mental combat. If the palace is breached, you must be able to defend yourself and Bora. The training started that evening. Taeyong brought Heiyun to a quiet chamber and explained how dragons fought. We do not use claws or fire as your legends claim. We use our minds. We create mental pressure, forcing opponents to submit through pure will. It requires focus, discipline, and absolute confidence. I'm not telepathic, Heiyun pointed out. No, but humans have something we do not. You call it creativity, unpredictability. Your thoughts move in patterns we cannot anticipate. That makes you frustrating to communicate with, but it might make you surprisingly difficult to defeat mentally. Taeyong demonstrated by creating a slight pressure in Heiyun's mind. It felt like someone pushing gently against her thoughts. Heiyun pushed back instinctively. To Taeyong's obvious surprise, she managed to resist his pressure. Interesting. You do not think in straight lines. When I push here, you simply flow around the pressure like water. Dragons would try to match force with force. You avoid the conflict entirely. They train for hours. Heiyun learned to sense mental attacks and respond not with strength, but with flexibility. She imagined her thoughts as water, as air, as things that could not be grasped or broken. Taeyong grudgingly admitted she had potential. That night, as Heiyun lay in her too-hard bed with Bora sleeping peacefully beside her, she heard a strange sound, an alarm. She sat up quickly. The crystal walls flashed red. Voices filled the telepathic network, urgent and afraid. Something was wrong. Doyen burst into her room, his eyes wide. Heiyun, someone breached the palace security. We don't know how they got through our shields, but there are intruders inside. You need to hide. Now! Heiyun grabbed Bora and followed Doyen into the corridor. Dragons rushed past, heading toward the source of the alarm. The lights flickered. Then, ahead of them, a figure appeared. Human, wearing advanced combat armor, with cloaking technology. The figure raised a weapon. Hello, Heiyun, said a familiar voice. Captain Jaiwin stepped out of the shadows, her face visible through her helmet. It's been a long time. I always knew you were too soft-hearted for real exploration work. Saving a dragon baby? Really? That's so typical of you. Jaiwin, don't do this, Heiyun said, stepping in front of Bora protectively. You don't understand what's happening here. This isn't just about money or politics. This is about ending a war that should never have started. Jaiwin laughed, still naive. The Krau are paying me a fortune to retrieve that hatchling, and I'm supposed to make sure no witnesses survive. Nothing personal, just business. She fired. Heiyun dove to the side, but the shot wasn't aimed at her. It hit the wall beside Doyen, sending crystal fragments flying. Doyen roared and lunged at Jaiwin, but she activated something on her belt and vanished, her cloaking field making her invisible. She's still here, Doyen warned, blood running from a cut on his shoulder. The armor blocks our telepathy. We cannot sense her. Heiyun's mind raced. Bora was crying in her arms, scared by the violence and noise. More shots fired from different directions. Jaiwin was playing with them, using her invisibility to attack from unexpected angles. Palace guards arrived, but couldn't see the target. Chaos filled the corridor. Then Bora did something unexpected. Her markings began to glow brightly, pulsing with purple and gold light. A wave of energy burst from the baby dragon, washing over the entire corridor. Suddenly, Jaiwin's cloaking field failed. She appeared, stumbling, clearly surprised. Quantum disruption. Doyen breathed in amazement. She canceled the technology. I didn't know hatchlings could do that. Jaiwin recovered quickly and raised her weapon toward Bora. But before she could fire, Taeyong crashed through the ceiling above, landing directly on top of her. The captain rolled away, activating a teleportation device. She vanished in a flash of light, but her voice echoed through a speaker in her dropped helmet. This was just a test, Haeun. The real attack comes in 2 days. The crowd want that baby, and they'll burn this whole palace to get her. You can't protect her. You're just one human playing at being a hero. Give up now before you get hurt. Silence fell after she disappeared. Haeun stood shaking, holding Bora close. The baby had stopped crying and was looking up at her with those big, trusting eyes. Myri arrived moments later, fury radiating from her massive form. Are you both unharmed? The Empress asked urgently. We're okay, Haeun said. But Jaiwin was right about one thing. They're coming with everything they have, and I don't know if we can stop them. Myri looked at her daughter, then at Haeun, then at the assembled dragons. There is something you need to know. Something the eldest dragon told me when Bora was born. A prophecy within the prophecy. It says that the Marked One and her protector must face the greatest danger alone, without armies or shields, or the bond will never complete. Only through trial can unity be forged. Haeun felt ice in her stomach. Alone? You mean Bora and I have to face the Krau fleet by ourselves? That is what the prophecy demands, Myri said quietly, and for the first time, Haeun heard true fear in the Empress's voice. And I must let you go, even though everything in me screams to protect my child. This is the burden of prophecy. This is the price of change. Haeun didn't sleep that night. She sat in her room, watching Bora dream peacefully, and tried to understand what was being asked of her. Face an entire fleet alone. No weapons, no backup, just her and a baby dragon against warships designed to destroy planets. It was insane. It was impossible. But the prophecy demanded it, and somewhere deep inside, Haeun knew that running would accomplish nothing. At dawn, Myri came to her chambers. The Empress looked tired, as if she had not slept either. There is something I must show you. Come with me to the Archive of Ancestors. Bring Bora. They walked through corridors of crystal and light until they reached a massive door carved with ancient symbols. It opened at Myri's touch, revealing a chamber that took Haeun's breath away. Holographic images floated everywhere like stars, each one containing knowledge and memories from dragons who had lived thousands of years ago. The air hummed with power. This is where we keep our history, Myri explained. Every important moment, every breakthrough, every lesson learned. When I heard the prophecy, I came here searching for answers. I found something that might help you. She moved through the floating images until she found what she was looking for. A hologram expanded, showing a ship, not a dragon ship or a human ship, something in between. It was small and organic looking, with surfaces that seemed to shift and breathe like living tissue. The song ship, Myri said quietly, created 10,000 years ago by a group of dragons who believed we needed to understand other species better. They tried to make a vessel that could be piloted by any intelligent being, not just dragons. It required the pilot to bond with the ship completely, thinking and feeling as one. Did it work? Haeun asked, studying the strange vessel. No dragon could ever fully bond with it. Our minds are too structured, too bound by patterns developed over millions of years. The ship needs something different. It needs creativity, chaos, the ability to think in ways that break all rules. Myri looked at Haeun meaningfully. It needs a human mind. Doyen appeared at the entrance, slightly out of breath. Empress. The song ship chamber is prepared. But I must warn you, the bonding process is dangerous. 3 dragons tried it before we sealed the ship away. Two survived but were mentally scarred. The third died. Haeun felt fear crawl up her spine. And you think I should try it? I think it is your only chance, Myri said gently. The Crow fleet will arrive tomorrow at dawn. 40 warships, 20 human mercenary vessels, and one massive command ship. Without the song ship, you'll be destroyed instantly. With it, you might have a chance. A small chance, but a chance. Haeun looked down at Bora, who was playing with a floating hologram, batting at it with her small claws. The baby dragon was growing stronger every day, but she was still so young, so innocent. She deserved a future. She deserved a chance to see the prophecy fulfilled. Take me to the ship, Haeun said. The song ship rested in a chamber deep beneath the palace, surrounded by quantum crystals that pulsed with blue light. Up close, it was even stranger than the hologram suggested. The hull was covered in patterns that reminded Haeun of dragon scales, but also of human skin, and also of something entirely alien. The ship was about the size of a small fighter craft, with smooth curves and no visible weapons. The weapons are internal, Dorian explained, reading her expression. The ship creates them as needed, pulling energy from quantum space. It can shield itself, move faster than light, and adapt to any situation, but only if the pilot truly bond with it. Haeun climbed inside. The interior was empty, except for a central platform with a glowing interface. She set Bora down carefully, and the baby dragon immediately curled up on the platform, seeming completely comfortable. Haeun took a deep breath and placed her hand on the interface. Pain exploded through her skull. It felt like someone was pouring fire directly into her brain. The ship was trying to connect with her nervous system, her thoughts, her very consciousness. It was too much, too fast, too painful. Haeun screamed and tried to pull away, but her hand was stuck to the interface. Then Bora chirped urgently. The baby dragon pressed her small head against Haeun's leg, and suddenly the pain lessened. Bora was channeling her quantum energy, helping to stabilize the connection. The baby was too young to understand what she was doing, but her instincts knew Haeun was in danger. Slowly, carefully, Haeun stopped fighting and let the connection happen. She felt the ship's consciousness touch hers. It was not alive in the way humans or dragons were alive, but it was aware. It had been waiting for 10,000 years to find someone who could truly bond with it. The ship showed her images of its creators, dragons who dreamed of a future where species worked together instead of fighting. They had died long ago, but their hope lived on in this vessel. Haeun opened herself fully to the connection. Her thoughts merged with the ship's systems. She could feel the engines as if they were her own muscles. The shields felt like her own skin. The weapons were extensions of her will. It was overwhelming and beautiful and terrifying all at once. 3 hours later, she emerged from the chamber, exhausted but successful. Myri looked at her with wonder. You did it! I can sense the bond. You and the song ship are connected. It's strange, Haeun said, leaning against the wall for support. I can feel it even now, like a part of me is still in there. It's waiting, ready. That evening, the entire dragon court gathered for what Myri called the ceremony of departure. Haeun stood before hundreds of dragons, feeling very small and very human. The Empress spoke to her people about the prophecy, about courage, about the chance for a new future. Some dragons looked hopeful. Others looked afraid. All of them looked at Haeun with new respect. Myri gave Haeun a quantum beacon. If the situation becomes truly hopeless, activate this. It will call for help. Help may not arrive in time, but at least you will not be completely alone out there. Taeyong approached, his expression serious. I doubted you, human. I thought you were weak and foolish. I was wrong. You have more courage than many dragons I know. Fight well tomorrow. Protect the little one. Even the dragons who had been hostile before offered words of encouragement. They gave her supplies, emergency medical equipment. Anything that might help. Dorian hugged her carefully, mindful of his size. Come back safe. Both of you. I want to hear all about your adventure. As night fell, Haeun sat alone with Myri on a balcony overlooking the storm. Bora slept between them, peaceful and trusting. The Empress spoke quietly. I am sending my daughter into danger with someone I met only days ago. Every instinct tells me this is wrong. Yet my heart tells me you are exactly who she needs. I'm terrified, Heion admitted. I don't know if I can do this. That is what makes you brave, Myri said. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting despite the fear. You prove that when you saved Bora in the cave. You will prove it again tomorrow. They sat in silence for a while, watching lightning dance across the sky. Finally, Myri spoke again. Regardless of what happens tomorrow, you have already changed things. Dragons are talking about humans differently now. Some are even suggesting we reach out to your people. Start real diplomatic contact. You have planted seeds of hope. Heion, that matters. Dawn came too quickly. Heion dressed in a flight suit the dragons had modified for her. She picked up Bora, who was excited about the adventure, unaware of the danger ahead. They walked to the songship chamber together, Myri beside them, silent and strong. At the ship, Myri touched her daughter's head gently with one massive claw. Be good for Heion, little one. Remember that I love you. Remember that whatever happens, you were born to change the world. Bora chirped happily and nuzzled her mother's claw. She did not understand goodbye. She only understood love and trust and the exciting prospect of flying in the strange ship. Heion turned to face Myri. I'll protect her with my life. I know, the Empress said simply. That is why I trust you. They boarded the song ship. The interface accepted Heion immediately this time, the bond already established. She felt the ship come alive around her, systems activating, power building. Bora settled into her special cradle, making comfortable sounds. The chamber doors opened above them. Storm clouds swirled in the purple sky. Somewhere beyond those clouds, a fleet was coming, an army of ships with weapons designed to destroy cities. They were coming for Bora, coming to prevent the prophecy, coming to maintain the old ways of fear and separation. Heion felt the songship's eagerness. It had waited 10,000 years for this moment, for a pilot who could truly use it, for a chance to fulfill the purpose its creators intended. She placed both hands on the control interface and felt her consciousness merge fully with the vessel. Are you ready? She whispered to Bora. The baby dragon chirped once, her markings glowing bright. Heion smiled despite her fear. Okay, then, let's go show them what we're made of. The songship launched into the sky like a shooting star, climbing to the storms and into the darkness of space. Below, dragons watched from the palace balconies. Above, a fleet of warships waited. And in between, one human and one baby dragon flew alone toward impossible odds, carrying the hope of two species on their shoulders. The trial had begun. The shadow fleet appeared like a dark cloud against the stars. 40 Krau warships surrounded by 20 human mercenary vessels, all arranged in perfect attack formation. At the center sat the massive command ship, 3 times larger than any other vessel. Heion's sensors showed weapons charging, shields at maximum. They had been waiting for her. The songship felt calm despite the danger, and that calmness helped steady Heion's racing heart. Bora sat in her cradle, making curious sounds as she watched the stars through the transparent hull. The baby dragon's markings pulsed with light, growing brighter as they approached the fleet. A communication channel opened. The massive face of a scarred dragon appeared on the view screen. This was Miho, the warlord who led the Krau. His eyes burned with fanatic intensity. So the Empress sends a human child and a defenseless hatchling to face us. This is an insult. She mocks our strength with this pathetic gesture. Heion took a deep breath and spoke calmly. I'm not here representing the Empress. I'm here for myself. You threatened someone I care about. Someone innocent. That was your mistake. Miho laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the speakers. Bold words from someone about to die. Surrender the marked one now, and I will give you a quick death. Refuse, and you will suffer before the end. There's a third option, Heion said. She cut the communication and spoke to the songship through their mental link. Show me their formation. Find the weakness. The ship's sensors went active, analyzing energy patterns, shield frequencies, weapon placements. Information flooded into Heion's mind. The fleet looked powerful, but it was also predictable. They had arranged themselves according to standard military tactics, assuming their enemy would fight the same way. They expected aggression, expected a frontal assault. Heon smiled. They don't know how humans think. Let's teach them. She dove the song ship directly toward the center of the fleet. Alarms blared. Weapons locked onto her from every direction. Energy blasts filled the space around her ship. But the song ship moved like water, flowing between the shots with impossible grace. Every instinct Heon had, every split-second decision, translated instantly into motion. The ship was an extension of her body, responding to thoughts faster than any mechanical system could. She wasn't trying to fight. Not yet. She was studying them, learning their patterns, looking for the truth she suspected. The Krall and the mercenaries were united only by greed and fear. That unity was fragile. If she could break it, the fleet would collapse from within. Heon opened a wide communication channel, broadcasting to every ship at once. Attention all vessels. I know why you're here. The Krall promise you power, wealth, territory. But I want you to ask yourself something. When has Warlord Miho ever shared anything? Check your contracts. Look at the fine print. I'm betting there's a clause that eliminates you after the job is done. On the mercenary flagship, Captain Jaiwin's eyes narrowed. She pulled up her contract files and started reading carefully. Around her, other mercenary captains were doing the same thing. Angry voices filled the communication channels. Heon continued, dodging weapons fire as she spoke. The Empress offers something different. Real alliance, trade, knowledge sharing. The Krall offer only war and death. They want to prevent the prophecy because they fear change. But change is coming whether they like it or not. You could be part of building something new, or you could die defending something old and broken. Several mercenary ships suddenly broke formation, their commanders demanding answers from Miho. The warlord roared in fury, but doubt had spread like poison through his alliance. Ships argued over the communication channels. The perfect formation began to crack. Miho made his fatal error. In his rage, he challenged Heon directly. Enough tricks, human. Face me in honorable combat. Single battle, dragon tradition. If you win, my fleet disperses. If you lose, the hatchling is mine. Heon knew this was a trap, but she also saw the opportunity. I accept, but I choose the terms. Mental duel, not physical. Dragon loss as a challenge party sets the conditions. Miho could not refuse without losing honor in front of his followers. Agreed. Prepare yourself. Human. I have studied mental combat for 3 centuries. You will break in seconds. The dual space opened, a quantum-generated arena where their consciousnesses would meet directly. Heon felt herself pulled into a place that existed only in thought. Miho appeared across from her, his mental form massive and intimidating. He attacked immediately, tried to crush her with centuries of tactical knowledge and dragon wisdom. But Heon did not fight like a dragon. When Miho pressed with military strategy, she countered with game theory from human history. When he used ancestral battle wisdom, she responded with scientific method and chaos mathematics. When he tried to overwhelm her with pure mental force, she became fluid, flowing around his attacks like water around stone. Miho was stronger, but Heon was unpredictable. Every time he thought he understood her pattern, she changed it. Every time he anticipated her next move, she did something completely different. It was frustrating him, making him angry, causing him to make mistakes. Then Bora did something extraordinary. The baby dragon's consciousness entered the dual space, placing herself between Heon and Miho. Through their quantum bond, she showed the warlord memories. What it felt like to be trapped under rocks, alone and dying. What it felt like when a stranger risked everything to save her. What it felt like to be loved unconditionally. Pure emotion flooded the mental space. Not strategy or logic or tactics. Just a simple, innocent feeling of being cared for. Miho staggered under the weight of it. In his centuries of warfare and political maneuvering, he had forgotten what this felt like. He had forgotten kindness, gentleness, the pure joy of connection without agenda. This is what the prophecy means. Heon said softly, Not conquest or power or proving who's superior. Just connection. Just caring about someone different from yourself. That's all it ever was. Miho's mental construct collapsed. Tears formed in his physical eyes back on his ship. I had been a fool, fighting for so long that I forgot what I was fighting for. Pushing away everyone different because I was afraid of change, afraid of losing control, afraid of admitting I might be wrong. The duel ended. Heian had won, but she felt no triumph, only sadness for someone who had wasted centuries on fear and anger. Miho opened a channel to his entire fleet. Stand down. All ships, power down weapons. The human has defeated me fairly. More importantly, she has shown me truth I refuse to see. We end this conflict now. Captain Jaiwan watched from her ship, conflict clear on her face. She had known Heian at the academy, had seen her kindness even then, and dismissed it as weakness. Now that same kindness had accomplished what weapons never could. Jaiwan made her decision. She turned her mercenary fleet against a few Krau ships whose commanders refused to surrender. The brief battle was decisive. Hours later, Heian returned to the Crystal Palace as something she never expected to be. A hero. The entire dragon civilization had watched the duel through quantum broadcast. The impossible had happened. An ordinary human scientist had faced an armada and won without firing a single shot. Empress Myri waited on the landing platform, and the moment the song ship opened, Bora launched herself toward her mother with joyful cries. Myri caught her daughter gently, tears streaming down her massive face. You came back. You both came back safe. Heian climbed out of the ship, exhausted but smiling. I told you I'd protect her. The ceremony that followed was unlike anything in dragon history. Myri stood before her entire court and made several announcements that would change everything. The Northern Dominion would open diplomatic relations with Earth. Technology and knowledge would be shared freely. Warlord Miho would serve as guardian of peace, ensuring smooth integration between the factions. And Heian would be the first ambassador between their species, if she chose to accept. That evening, after all the ceremonies and speeches and celebration, Heian found herself alone with Myri on the same balcony where they had talked before the battle. Bora dozed peacefully between them, worn out from excitement. Your people have a saying, Myri said quietly. Humanity, fuck yeah. A crude phrase, but I think I finally understand it. You face impossible odds. You survive through determination, and somehow you make it look easy. Heian laughed. It never feels easy from our side. We just don't know when to quit. Too stubborn to accept defeat, I guess. Then you will fit perfectly with dragons. We are quite stubborn ourselves. Myri paused, looking at the stars. What will you do now? You have completed the prophecy. Save my daughter. Change the course of history. You could return to Earth as a hero. Live comfortably for the rest of your life on the fame of what you accomplish. Heian looked down at Bora, then out at the stormlit palace, then at the dragons moving to the corridors below. She thought about Doyen and his endless curiosity, about Taeyong learning to respect someone different, about all the possibilities that had opened up because she chose kindness over fear in a dark cave. I think I'll stay, she said. Earth was my home, but this feels like where I belong now. Besides, someone needs to make sure you dragons and humans actually learn to work together. Might as well be me. Myri's eyes glowed with warmth. I was hoping you would say that. Years passed. The first joint research station opened with Doyen and Heian leading the science teams. Bora grew into a magnificent dragon, able to speak both telepathically and in human language, serving as a living bridge between species. Captain Jaiwan, pardoned for her actions in the final battle, joined Earth's new Dragon Affairs division. Miho became an unexpected friend, teaching humans dragon philosophy while learning human methods of creative problem-solving. The galaxy changed, slowly at first, then faster. Other species watched humans and dragons working together and wondered if they too could overcome their prejudices. Trade routes opened. Cultural exchanges happened. Wars that had lasted centuries ended as former enemies talked instead of fought. And it all started with a simple choice. a human scientist who couldn't walk away from a crying child, even when that child was completely alien. Heun sent one final message back to Earth that was broadcast across all human colonies. We're stronger than we know, not because of our weapons or our ships or our technology. We're strong because we choose compassion, even when it's difficult. I saved a baby dragon because it was the right thing to do. That choice changed two civilizations. Imagine what we could accomplish if we approached every challenge with that same heart. Humanity, fuck yeah, not because we're the toughest or the smartest, but because we choose to be better. That's the real story worth telling. An elderly Heun sat decades later in her garden, watching human and dragon children play together without fear or prejudice. Bora rested beside her, their minds still linked across all the years. Above them, mixed fleets protected the sector together. The age of isolation had ended, replaced by something new and beautiful. Do you ever regret staying? Bora asked through their bond. Heun smiled, watching a human toddler ride on a young dragon's back, both laughing. Not for a single moment. Some people search their whole lives for purpose. I found mine in a dark cave, crying under some rocks. Best accident that ever happened to me. All because one person looked at someone completely different and saw not a monster, but a child who needed help. Sometimes the greatest changes start with the smallest acts of kindness. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply care.